Coming up, I've got my first power rankings of your National Basketball Association season for 2023. Plus, Frank Reich is out already as the head coach of the Carolina Panthers. And can you blame the Panthers organization for doing it? Somehow, Brandon Staley still has a job as of noon on Monday, November 27th of the year 2023. I'm Dave DeBon. Thanks so much for tuning in to the House of Takes pod today. Now, we've been away for a couple weeks. A super bad cold brought home to me by one of the kids from college. Super excited to be back on the air, so to speak. Now, for the NBA power rankings, we're going to get into that in just a quick sec. Just some quick thoughts on the National Football League, specifically Frank Reich out as the head coach of the Carolina Panthers. Look, when you have the number one draft pick and you are supposed to be a quarterback wizard, and the team that fired you last year is doing better than you're doing this year, and you've only put up one win, of course you're going to be in some trouble. Now, was this overreaction by the Carolina Panthers organization? And when Bryce Young throws 9 touchdown passes, has 8 picks, and is the 31st ranked quarterback in the National Football League, and then you've got C.J. Stroud doing what C.J. Stroud is doing, for God's sakes, Bryce Young is actually ranked behind Mac Jones. Look, I rest my case on why the Carolina Panthers went ahead and made that decision. As for Brandon Staley, the head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers, as of noon on Monday, the 27th, nothing has occurred there yet, but you know it is going to happen at some point. But look, we are here today not to talk about the National Football League. We are here today to talk about the National Basketball Association and, of course, the power rankings. My very first power rankings for the year, and into those we go. Now, a couple, I'm just going to give you my top 10. And the teams on the fringe, as you know, I always do teams on the fringe. The teams on the fringe, this particular power ranking cycle, are the New York Knicks, the Indiana Pacers, and we all know how great Tyrese Halliburton has been. I mean, he is turning into an absolute superstar in the association. I just sort of wonder where some of that was during the World Cup of Basketball earlier in the summer. I've got the Pelicans also on the fringe, the Mavericks, and out of sheer respect to the Miami Heat, I also have them on the fringe because, as you know, with the Miami Heat, just making the playoffs is all that matters for that organization that actually has culture written on their jerseys these days. All right, into the rankings. Like, this shouldn't be a surprise that I have the Boston Celtics in at number 1. They currently have the 4th ranked defense in the association, and quite frankly, have all of the pieces necessary to actually go out and win a couple NBA titles. They've clearly, to this point, been the best basketball team in the NBA. Now, you all know that I'm originally from the great state of Minnesota, and you would think that if ever there was a time where I could actually put the Minnesota Timberwolves ahead of the Boston Celtics, this would be it. But when you look at what the Sacramento Kings did to the Timberwolves the other day, you have to take a step back and think about these power rankings as they would relate to a NBA playoff season actually beginning. And so that's sort of how I create these power rankings. I'm not just creating them just solely on how a team is currently doing, but I'm also creating the power rankings on how I think they might actually do if the playoffs were to start today. With that being said, in at number two, I've got the Denver Nuggets. And of course, the Denver Nuggets have played pretty well so far this season, 11-6. Not so great on the road are the Denver Nuggets, as Yoda might say. Look, the Nuggets will get that taken care of. And clearly, they are still sort of searching for the right kind of mixture. And of course, Jamal Murray has been out, and yet they're still 11-6. Look, I could sit here and bore you with the Jokic stats on how he's playing a little bit more so far this season than he has in seasons past. And that, of course, is partially because of their bench not being as strong as it was last year, as well as, of course, Jamal Murray not being there. But in at number two, and they absolutely belong there, is the Denver Nuggets. In at number three, a little bit questionable here, but the Philadelphia 76ers. We know that Tyrese Maxey has done a fantastic job playing. He's a little injured now, so we'll see how that goes. They've got a big matchup tonight with the Los Angeles Lakers in the city of brotherly love. This Philadelphia team, absolutely, at least at this stage of the season, has played quite frankly, better than the Milwaukee Bucks have, which is why they're in at number three. In at number four, my Minnesota Timberwolves. And if you asked me at the start of the season if they would ever not be a fringe team, I would have said they'll live on the fringe for the entire season. A fantastic start needs to be rewarded in the power rankings this time around. Look, I was really close to putting the OKC Thunder ahead of them. They play on Tuesday night against OKC. I have OKC in at number 5 in the power rankings. Just such a great young team is the Oklahoma City Thunder. Look, the T-Wolves are ranking in the top 10 in all of the major defensive categories in the NBA so far this season. They're still sort of figuring out the mix, but they certainly are playing great. As I mentioned, Chet Holmgren and the Oklahoma City Thunder, we all know how great Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is, but but combining Chet into this mix has absolutely proven to be a stellar move by the OKC Thunder team. Look, Chet had an entire season to see how the NBA works and operates. You can't underestimate the power of actually being able to, in the old days of the National Football League, the backup quarterback who was eventually going to be the starting quarterback sat there with a clipboard and watched for a year or two, meaning he understood the intricacies of what was happening in the game, but he also understood what it took to play in the game, both on and off the field. I think that has really benefited Chet Holmgren to this point. The wear and tear of traveling from city to city is a real thing for rookies in the National Basketball Association. This OKC team continues to get stronger. J-Dub, excuse me, has missed the last 3 games, but should be back soon. This is a fantastic young team with some veterans tied into the mix. Maybe at the trading deadline, they could be a legitimate threat to make a move to come out of the West. Just think back to when the Golden State Warriors became the Golden State Warriors. You didn't really see it coming until it actually almost got there. OKC might not quite be there this year, but if they brought in the right veterans at the right time, they certainly could be there. Look, the Milwaukee Bucks are a work in progress, and they're 12-5. How would you like to be a work in progress and being 12-5? Look, Dame Lillard has been fantastic to this point. We know how good Giannis has been. Brook Lopez has finally woken up from his winter slumber and is playing better. Of course, a lot of this all just relies on the knees of one Chris Middleton. We'll see if he's able to stay healthy throughout the year. The Bucks certainly a threat it should be interesting to see where they are in the power rankings next week and throughout the rest of the season. Orlando Magic, outside of the Timberwolves, the other really big surprise, in fact, a bigger surprise than the T-Wolves to this point, 12-5 are the Orlando Magic. You absolutely have to give this team a ton of credit for how they're playing. They're very similar in some respects to the OKC Thunder in that they've got a young nucleus that's actually playing significantly better. I don't know about you, but I thought the San Antonio Spurs, after giving Devin Vassell all that money, would actually be better than they actually are. We know that Wemby is on that team, and we can see that Wemby is starting to get better. We know that the San Antonio Spurs also have a nice young nucleus, sort of like OKC does, as well as Orlando, but there hasn't been that upside. Look, I'm not saying that San Antonio is as good as OKC or Orlando. I just expected them to be better than 3 wins at this point. Look, the Orlando Magic absolutely are the surprise team of the year to this point. They've got a fantastic team with players coming on and off the bench, and we know how good Franz can be if given the opportunity. Of course, Pablo is playing great as well. In at number 8 is the Sacramento Kings. Look, De'Aaron Fox was out for a couple weeks. Sacramento is now 9-6. Sacramento took down the Timberwolves, handing the T-Wolves their first loss at home in Minnesota last week. This is a good team. This week, they go up against Golden State. They've got the dysfunction of the Los Angeles Clippers. And then, of course, they've got a game against the Denver Nuggets. It will be an interesting, telling week, but I expect them to win 2 out of 3 this week. This is a really good team. I absolutely love Sabonis. And when De'Aaron Fox is healthy, they are a fantastic team. Keegan Murray has been hurt, so we'll see when he gets in. But there's enough depth on this team for the second tier players to actually step up, like a Malik Monk or a Herder. They just need one of them to play well in order for them to win. They don't need both of them to play well, especially if Sabonis does what Sabonis does on a night in and night out fashion, and De'Aaron Fox can stay healthy. De'Aaron Fox, an absolute winner in the National Basketball Association. In at number 9, and I would expect this team to actually move up the power rankings as the season goes, but still no Bradley Beal. Back issue is going to be out for a couple more weeks. Who knows how long that is going to linger. Like, I absolutely love Kevin Durant. And of course, absolutely love Devin Booker. Booker hit a game winner against the Knicks last night in Madison Square Garden. It's just a question of depth. 11-6. And the depth question sort of comes down to you're not going to be able to play Kevin Durant every single game, and you're not going to be able to play Devin Booker every single game going forward. They're going to have to take some nights off. And when they do that, is there enough depth, even against some of the batter teams in the association, for them to actually in any way step up? In at number 10 in the power rankings this week is my second favorite team, the Los Angeles Lakers. Look, you got to give LeBron his due. AD has been playing really well. Austin Reeves, who got off to a slow start. Austin Rivers is now moved on to television, by the way. Anyways, Austin Reeves, who's had a slow start, has been playing better. Rory was hurt for a little while. He's playing a little bit better. They haven't had Vanderbilt. There's other players who haven't had a chance to play because of injury and extensively. I don't love the fact that a Taurean Prince is somebody that has to be in your starting lineup. And despite all of that, they are 10-7. And And I will say this, like, they are 10-7 because LeBron doesn't want to miss any time. If he can avoid not having to sit out of a game, he has done that to this point. Lakers in at number 10. Tell me what you think, North America. I want to hear what your thoughts are on my first power rankings of the 2023 season of the association. And finally, today, just some quick thoughts on the in-season tournament. I've talked about this a little bit when it started, and I can say that I'm absolutely loving what I'm seeing, coming out of the association related to this in-season tournament. I almost feel like the tournament could be a little bit longer than it actually is. Still, I'm sure adjustments will be made in year 2 and 3 of the tournament. What do you think about the tournament? Is it causing you to tune in on Tuesday and Friday nights when you might not have in the past? Has it added an extra layer of excitement to the NBA when the National Football League usually dominates? Because let's be clear about this. This is exactly what this is all about. This is about the National Basketball Association not necessarily trying to steal some thunder from the NFL, but trying to be put on a equal playing ground if they can during the NFL season. All right, tell me what you think, North America. I want to hear from you. Drop in your thoughts and comments. And of course, if you haven't had a chance to subscribe yet to the House of Takes pod, please go ahead and do so. For the House of Takes pod, I'm Dave DeBaugh, wishing you all a tremendous rest of your sports viewing day.